welcome into this Friday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. We hope you're enjoying your day. It's beautiful out. You can clearly see that Kevin is outside and enjoying the weather. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, I'm sure. But we have to talk about, of course, the Gamecocks getting ready to rematch against Oklahoma. Our team in Columbia has the story on that.
Hello, everyone. Rick Henry, Julia Westerman in lovely, warm, sunny Sacramento.
It's beautiful out. I'm loving this.
And we've been covering the Gamecock women's practice, their interview session today, along with their opponent, the Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma took it to them in that first game, beat them in overtime, and they out-rebounded the Gamecocks, had more points in the paint. And so we asked the Gamecocks, hey, what's going to be a key for making sure that doesn't happen again?
There's been a lot of focus. I mean, this is the second straight rematch that the Gamecocks have had to play in this tournament, and so obviously a lot centers around that. But I think the Gamecocks were really trying to shift the narrative here. They don't want it to just be about a team that they're seeing again, especially if it's one that they lost to. But I think they understand that that is one of the storylines that's being focused on, and they obviously need to improve from that last time.
Yeah, one of the South Carolina players told me they thought they were going to get a rematch with Oklahoma at the SEC tournament. That didn't happen, but it is going to happen here in Sacramento. And we asked the players, what's the bigger motivation? Is it revenge against the Sooners or just wanting to win so you can stay alive in the big dance?
We're not motivated by avenging a loss. We're motivated by advancing. So it's not like, oh, they beat us last time, let us do this or that. It's survive and advance. It is to have more points than they do at the end of the 40 minutes or however long it takes.
We're not going to put too much energy on get back or revenge. This is another game, and we got to go out, like she said, it's 0-0 at this point. It's do or die for both teams, so we got to go out with the right mindset and play South Carolina basketball.
I mean, this is a different chapter, and this is like, it's the NCAA tournament. It's win or go home, and have the mindset that like we're going all the way, and there's no losing at this point, and we're doing everything that we can to stay in the tournament longer, and we're playing as a team more and everything, but we're clicking at the right time and doing everything at the right time.
All right, so we see the mentality from the Gamecocks heading into this matchup, but you went into the Oklahoma locker room. How are they approaching seeing South Carolina again?
Well, one thing I asked them, because when they played South Carolina in the regular season, they were coming off 3 straight losses, and I asked them, what did that do as far as giving you some momentum and helping you turn around their season? And they said it did, especially when you can beat a program like South Carolina. And they say when they study film on the Gamecocks as they get ready for round 2, and they say, yeah, they have improved, especially when it comes to with their defense that we've seen that in the first 2 rounds of this NCAA tournament, and probably just being a little more efficient on offense. And they say that they also have improved. So I'm expecting we're going to see another tough battle between those 2 teams.
Well, and I want to talk about confidence a little bit, because obviously this game gave Oklahoma a lot of confidence back in January, but it's March, so we're talking about 2 months later. And when you talk about confidence when it comes to the Gamecocks, we talked to Agat McKeer, who's had a great tournament so far. Her first 2 games are very impressive, and we were talking to her about how much growth she thinks she's had over this season and in comparison to that last Oklahoma game. And I think it could be said across the board for all of these players is they've been able to go back 2 games in a row now, watch games that they already played this season, and be able to pinpoint the things that they have grown in the most. And I think they're really hitting their stride right now. I know Agat's really confident in her gameplay, and I would imagine the rest of South Carolina is as well.
And I think it's a byproduct of just competing in the Southeastern Conference tournament, because when you look at the Gamecocks' opponents in Greenville, all 3 nationally ranked teams. And you don't get that in the first 2 rounds when you're a high seed in this tournament. Yeah. And so now for the Gamecocks, it's more like, okay, here we go, facing another SEC team, and they know what they're in for, and they also know that they have improved significantly since the beginning of the year. All we have to do is look back at their first 2 games in the NCAA tournament, the way they come out, clicking on all cylinders, and that defense, 17 steals in the second round against Southern Cal. If they come out like that, I like the Gamecocks' chances of moving on to the Elite Eight.
I'm pretty confident in that as well. I mean, obviously, we're going to see two very different teams from the last time that these teams played in January, but I think for South Carolina, it is very much going to be for the better. They're not going to let those little things that didn't work for them last time happen again, and then we could be moving on. You can see TCU or Virginia in the next round, and that would be another big storyline if it's Virginia, the Don Staley angle there. But we got to focus on one game at a time, got to get through Oklahoma. So lots of good storylines in this tournament, though, and I'm really enjoying this one.
And I think we're in for a very exciting rematch here. Oklahoma and South Carolina in the Sweet 16, and they'll be tipping off Saturday at 5 p.m. I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Well, thanks, Rick. And Rick and Julia will be out there with coverage of the Gamecocks as they try to go further into this bracket. And I mean, it's an exciting matchup coming up for them, guys. You look at some of the rematches that South Carolina's already had this season. You know, they just faced Southern Cal in the last round. That was a team they beat by 17 back in, I believe, November. And then all of a sudden they beat them by 40 points here. So the Gamecocks definitely saw some growth in facing that opponent. Hopefully that's some momentum that they can bring into this Oklahoma game, Carmine.
Yeah, and the home court advantage definitely a big factor in the first meetings of these rematches, because at Oklahoma with their crowd in a frenzy, that's when Aaliyah Chavez scored 15 points in overtime, which is still almost unfathomable that a player could score 15 points in a 5-minute overtime, and beating South Carolina by 12 for Oklahoma in that first meeting against USC. And they got to stop Chavez. They got to stop Beers. Oklahoma has 5 players who average in double figures, but Chavez, 18 points a game, and Reagan Beers, tough on the inside, 16 points, 10.5 rebounds. Kevin, I think a big key is if Joyce Edwards, or if they can have their inside players get Beers in foul trouble, like we've seen her susceptible to being in even a couple years ago when she was at Oklahoma State playing against the Gamecocks in the NCAA tournament in this same Sweet 16 Elite 8 round. That could be a big factor. I think getting Beers on the bench will be huge to taking an early lead and keeping it.
Yeah, and I think Edwards would be a big part of that as well, because we saw her with some great low post moves on Monday night in that win over Southern Cal. The footwork down low, just doing a great job of keeping everyone off balance on defense. So I think that would be a big part of if South Carolina can get Beers into foul trouble. Now, over at the College of Charleston this week, it has been, let's just say it's been a rough week, to say the least, because on Monday they lose their women's head coach, Robin Harmony, left. On Wednesday, their men's head coach, Chris Mack, leaves for South Florida. Today, another loss for the College of Charleston. And on the women's side, and this is a big one, as On3 Sports is reporting that the Barbeau twins, Taylor and Taryn, are both entering the transfer portal. So they are on the way out of the College of Charleston. Now, Taylor, really good player in her own right. She was first team all CAA this past season. So that in and of itself is a big loss. But of course, Taryn is the big loss here for CFC. She is the 2-time defending CAA player of the year. So for her to go, that's just a crippling loss for the College of Charleston. Now the question is, where do they go? Are they going to follow Robin Harmony up to Pitt? I know they've been very loyal to their head coaches. Staying with their last year was a big deal. So I wouldn't be shocked if they both go up to Pittsburgh and follow her, or if they try to go somewhere else. Of course, Taryn had that huge 36-point game against Duke in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So I'm sure a lot of teams are going to be lining up for both of these players, Carmine.
Yeah, definitely. And then on the Clemson men's basketball side, a player who started 29 games for the Tigers, Jake Wallin, being reported by On3 to be entering the transfer portal as well. So we're going to see a lot of movement in this new era of college basketball. But speaking of that, we have some big-time games in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 for men's and women's college basketball. And so my favorite, actually I got 2 for this Friday edition. Duke against St. John's, where you got the Duke program. Can they still, make it all the way back to the Final Four like they did last season? John Shire, a national champion as a player, and their pedigree, of course, against St. John's. First Sweet 16 in more than 25 years this century. Rick Pitino, a national champion head coach, and then you have a matchup between 2 more national champ head coaches in Michigan State against UConn. But Danny Hurley recently, and then, with his back-to-back championships at UConn, and then Tom Izzo in 2000 with Michigan State. Can he have a resurgence 25, 26 years later to get back to the mountaintop? a perennial Sweet 16 team. Tom Izzo always has his teams ready to go. So tough matchups there, Teagan, on the men's side. Who do you think is your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some tough matchups as I look at my bracket and try to defend this top spot in our work pool. Makes me a little bit more nervous going into this weekend. Obviously, Duke St. John's, I think, is really the big one that I'm looking at. I have Duke as my winner. I wasn't as worried in the beginning of the bracket. Now I'm pretty worried after watching the way that St. John's played against Kansas versus how Duke kind of played in their first game and then played against TCU. I think that one has me a little bit nervous. As for, we had a couple of games last night. Of course, Arizona moving on, Purdue moving on. I think the Michigan-Alabama game could be really fun to watch. And then on the women's side, we've already got a game going right now as we're recording our show, Notre Dame and Vanderbilt going head-to-head. But I think the South Carolina game is just really going to put into stone, what the Gamecocks are truly capable of this year after a couple of those losses during the regular season where we said, maybe this isn't the strength of the team that we thought it would be in the beginning of the year, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that Duke St. John's game. I've been a big Rick Pitino fan for a long time. I'd love to see him pull off an upset tonight. You mentioned Michigan-Alabama. That should be a fun one as well. Michigan, so strong underneath. I just don't know if Alabama has the big guys to match up with the Wolverines, so I expect to see Michigan moving on. We're going to have a full recap coming up here on Monday. We're going to head over to break. We'll be right back with more Palmetto Sports Daily right after this.
Welcome back here to Palmetto Sports Daily, and the bracket branches looking very similar to the branches that are holding up Kevin's phone for the live portion of his deal. Undisclosed location outside. We don't want to give too much away because then the paparazzi's going to come, autograph seekers. We don't want that. We just want focus. Yep. For this Palmetto Sports Daily episode to finish off the weekend. As far as the bracket, though, for the women's side, I cannot wait to see this Duke-LSU matchup, ACC against SEC, and two teams that really could continue advancing, contrasting styles there. But as far as Clemson baseball, they are going through it right now. They have lost now 5 games in a row. They lost to Miami in the first game of their series at Doug Kingsmore Stadium last night. And they tied the game late. It went into 10 innings, and it looked like they were going to keep, extending this into 10 innings. The bases got loaded with 2 outs. They were only 1 strike away. It was an 0-2 count, 1 strike away from advancing into the next inning, and instead you get another untimely mistake, an error at third base by Tristan McClatty. Tough play to make. The ball bounced high right around his waist, trying to field it at the hot corner under pressure. And instead, Clemson goes from being tied 3-3 in the 10th inning, 1 out away from going to the next inning, to losing 8-3 after sending the game to extra innings. And afterwards, head coach Eric Bakich basically at a loss for words about where they are right now.
I mean, not much to say. I mean, I do know this. Something good is going to come from this. And it sucks to go through it. It sucks to lose. It's the worst part of being a competitor, and it's the worst part of sport. But something good is going to come from this. We're one play, 1 pitch, 1 swing away, and we've been on the short side of it too many times in the last couple of weeks. And we were 1 swing, 1 play away from being on the right side of things tonight.
Really feel for Coach Bakich there, one of my favorite people to cover in the entire area, in my entire sports career, really, such a great guy. But now he sees his team losing 5 in a row, dropping to just a 1-6 record in the ACC. But hey, just a few seasons ago, and they had a very tough ACC start, and in Eric Bakich's first year, they ended up winning the ACC championship. So a turnaround still is possible. We've seen it done from this coach, from this team. But it's a tough stretch, and this week's portion of the tough stretch, after being swept by Notre Dame, Teagan, came when the Tigers had a 6-run lead over Coastal Carolina, lost that game, and Coastal swinging that into some momentum for themselves.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And I know that earlier in the week when we were talking about that Coastal Carolina-Clemson game, you already had your script pretty much written, and then all of a sudden Coastal Carolina scoring those 8 runs in the last 3 innings. Now, I of course had to throw this in here because it was the first thing that stuck out to me when we took that soundbite from Bakich. He got rid of the handlebar mustache. Did you ask about that, Carmine, and the choice behind that?
I did not. I wasn't there last night, and I thought because of how much they've been struggling, I'm like, not really a great time. If they were winning, I'd be like, oh, coach, great change. Love the look. That looks great. But I think he's just trying to change anything right now to get this team back on the right track, I think.
Yeah, and like you said, it's the beginning of conference play for them. They're 1-6, not a great start at all, but there definitely is still time to turn this around for them, Kevin.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of, besides the mustache, when I was hearing from Eric Bakich, was he sounds a lot like Paul Mainieri did last Friday after that 22-6 loss to Arkansas. And he just seems beaten down right now by what's going on with Clemson. We thought everything had kind of turned around when they had that trip here to the Low Country and got wins over the Citadel and the College of Charleston. But like you said now, 5 straight losses, and things are it's really tough right now for Clemson. And it's going to take something big for them to turn it around. Even one win's not going to do it. They're going to have to, really turn things around and get some kind of momentum going here.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing that they're looking for. And, they have more games against Miami this weekend, obviously finishing out that series. So hopefully they learn something from game 1 to take into these next few games, just especially defense-wise. As for Coastal Carolina, the Chants are hitting the road, heading to Marshall, the number 2 team in the Sun Belt standings. Coastal Carolina is 6-0 in conference play after sweeping App State and then sweeping JMU, run-ruling the Dukes in every single one of those games. And then Marshall lost a game to Georgia Southern last Sunday. They also lost their midweek game, so the Herd riding a 2-game losing streak heading into this matchup. And Coastal Carolina, once again, with their pitching rotation for the weekend, they've got Friday set. It's Luke Jones. Saturday, they've got Ross Norman. Sunday is now blank again, and it's been that way for the past 2 weekends when they've been putting out their pitching rotation. They did have Case Bosch in there as an official starter, a couple of weeks ago, and then it just seems like right now they're, again, trying to figure out that Sunday formula with all the injuries that they've got going on in the pitching staff. They have 12 arms available right now. 5 of those guys are freshmen, so on the one side of it, you look at it and say these guys are young, they're still developing, and obviously that's going to be a process. But then, the other part of me kind of looks to the future and says at least these guys are getting a lot of experience right now as young pitchers on the team, so that way hopefully Coastal Carolina, with the future of this program, can have a lot more strength in their younger guys and hopefully not have to worry too much about losing their star pitchers and star arms to injuries like they did this year right now with Hayden Johnson and Cam Flukie. And producer Nick, who am I tossing to next? I missed you in my ear there. We're going to take a quick break here on Palmetto Sports Daily, according to producer Nick, but we will be right back.
Welcome back here to Palmetto Sports Daily, and we're ready for opening day for the Atlanta Braves. They are hosting the Kansas City Royals at 7:15 tonight in the first game of the season, and you can watch that right here on our Palmetto Sports and Entertainment Network live and for free. Coverage starting at 7 o'clock. And it's also the first game for first-year manager Walt Weiss, who's been Atlanta's lead assistant the past 8 seasons during 6 straight division titles and, of course, the World Series championship, expressing his first game feelings now as the manager.
Yeah, opening day for sure is special. I mean, we play 162, but something special about that first one every year. So yeah, it'll be a great environment, and yeah, I think if you don't have butterflies, probably need to check yourself.
We have butterflies about not only the Braves giving us butterflies, but also the Bananas giving us butterflies, Teagan, because they're coming to your neck of the woods.
Oh, yeah, it'll be a busy weekend in Conway. We've got Banana Ball coming to town, the Party Animals, and then the new team, the Loco something. I wish I could remember. I've been focusing on football today as we get ready for Coastal, which
Coconuts.
will be our next one. The Coconuts, yes, the Loco Coconuts. Thank you, Kevin. So, yeah, look at that. That's insane. I am very excited for the craziness this weekend. The credential form that we had to fill out had it's some crazy
I didn't know that
ideas.
was safe to
Wow.
show on TV.
Wow, that was... Yeah, Nick, is that
back-to-back
cool?
days.
I hope so.
We got the College of Charleston.
I think on that note, we're going to break. We're going to break. Just, yeah.
My goodness, we just had to recompose ourselves in the break based on that twerking umpire. Back-to-back manly moves here on Palmetto Sports Daily. Yesterday we had Chad Holbrook, the coach of the College of Charleston baseball team, with the belly bump to the umpire. Now we got a twerking ump. So I guess it's ump redemption from an ump getting belly bumped to a twerking ump. And but we also have some great football in your area too, Teagan, to segue smoothly.
Yeah, totally smooth segue. I don't think there's going to be anything like that with the umpire happening at Coastal Carolina's spring game, which is happening tonight. At least I don't think there will be. If there is, I'll update you guys on Monday. But Ryan Beard era starting today. Fans get a look at the team. Only a couple of returners here. Robbie Washington, one of the running backs, and then a couple of other guys as well. But mostly new quarterbacks, new everything. It's an exciting day as we begin the Ryan Beard era. Sadly, we are ending the show, though. This is the end of Palmetto Sports Daily on this Friday. We hope you have an absolutely fantastic weekend. Stay safe. Have fun.